Good morning, everyone. Sorry for delay. We are waiting for connection via Skype. Emir-Usein Kuku and Sergei Loktev, and now we do not have this connection. We are waiting. Among the speakers who are present now, Akhtem Chiygoz, Deputy Head of the Mejlis of the Crimean Tatar people, Gurieva, Press Office, Amnesty International, and Tamila Tasheva, co-founder and coordinator of NGO CrimeaSOS. Welcome. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Today, this is the 20th day of hunger strike of Emir-Usein Kuku, who is the representative of Crimean Contact Group and human rights activist. He is well known in Crimea due to his human rights protection activities. He is the participant, allegedly, he is the participant of some sort of terror group that was created in Yalta. This is the case of Hizb ut-Tahrir. Now Emir-Usein is in Rostov-on-Don and in support of other political prisoners who are now in the territory of Russian Federation and the territory of occupied Crimea. And in support of those actions of Alexei Sov, he started 60 days ago. He went on hunger strike. And last week, during the meeting in Rostov-on-Don, during court hearing, he handed over announcements about the state, his health condition and why he started this hunger strike. I'm going to read this declaration. It is in Russian, and it is addressed to the President of Russia, General Prosecutor of Russian Federation, General Consul of that is in Rostov-on-Don, from the Mr. Kuku, who is in detention facility number 4. I, Emir-Usein Kuku Malovich, who was born in 1976, I go on hunger strike and I refuse food, and until the issue connected with the release of political prisoners is resolved. These are 70 people, and the full list is provided by proper bodies, and also Denisova Lyudmila and Amnesty International also has this list, and I demand to stop repressions against Crimea Tatars and other people, and I support Alexei Sentsov, Balakh, Semshov, Alexander Kolichenko, and for us it is really important that Alexei Sentsov, Vladimir Balakh, we should speak about these people and about Mr. Kuku, because these are one of the first people who were arrested based on fabricated case connected with alleged terror activity. He is a family man. He has 2 children, and he didn't communicate with them during these 3 years personally. And this is a man who started human rights protection activities to support people who were kidnapped in the territory of Crimea, and he started the work of Crimean Contact Group, and he constantly communicated with the relatives of the political prisoners. And here Maria Gurieva is present. She represents Amnesty International Ukraine, and they carried out their own activity, the marathon, signing the letters to support Emir-Usein Kuku And Frontline Defense also supported him and recognized him as human rights defenders and constantly speaking on all platforms about him. And as Alex said, when he saw his sister, he said that it is really sad that people do not speak about other political prisoners. They speak only about me. I'm really grateful that you are speaking about me, that you hold protests, but it is really important to speak also about others. That's why it is really important to say about not only Alexei Sentsov, not only about those who started hunger strikes a little bit earlier, but to speak about a human rights defender from Crimea who also went on hunger strike, and he is speaking about all of the political prisoners of Kremlin, and to say more about his state of health. And we hope that we will be able to connect with his relatives via Skype. And now I give the floor to Akhtem Chiygoz, deputy head of the Mejlis of the Crimean Tatar people and former prisoner. And he spent 2 years in Russian prison in Crimea. I will consider myself a prisoner, a political prisoner, until I return home, as all those guys who are now detained. And Tamila said, and I remember those years, I saw Ruslan Zakulaev, one of the first guys, and he publicly addressed people. And he was the first one who used this rigid form of protest, such as hunger strike. I believe that now this form is under-assessed, and do not invoke those emotions that should be in society and among foreign leaders. This is not statistics. We mentioned 100 days, Bilyalov, more than 60 days Sentsov, more than 20 days Kuku, and Ruslan before, twice, 1 month. So this is not about statistics. This is about struggle, about fight, and their lives. They can stop any time. I know what I'm speaking about. Unfortunately, maybe, this emotional underassessment of the fight and in these protests we do not see thousands of people, but this is really necessary to inform people in order that thousands of people gather. I understand that everyone know these names, and people speak about Sentsov, and people speak less about other people. I don't think that this is the criteria of their saving. We should speak about all of them. And there are lists that are created when resolutions are adopted. First, they include those people who express their position rigidly. They are at the top of the list, on top of the list. And the condition of Mr. Kuku, and it raises our concerns. So I would like to speak about conditions he is now in. And we consider those conditions as torture, terrible form of torture, when for hours you are in some forms of, in some cell, you do not have food, you do not have some water, and you can go to your cell only in the evening. So this is so difficult. People who are in prison, those who spent their time in prison many times, they believe that this condition is torture, and I also was in these conditions. And when people go on hunger strike in this condition, their life can stop anytime. The condition of Bilyalov is critical, I can tell you, and we do not have opportunity to speak with the Sentsov and have information daily. But here we have opportunity to get information through people who surround him daily. For example, I think that such public position of some guys who fight, Sever Mustafa, for example, it irritates FSB officers, especially occupational authorities. These people, they start to repress them. They start to repress people who are already in difficult conditions. They continue the struggle, and it shows that they are really strong people. But I would like to speak with you about what we should do. So we make statements about the difficult condition, but we understand that the situation can stop any time, and the lives of these people can also cease. So maybe these are the best people among us, and they can lose their life any time. So what we can do? I expressed my opinion during one meeting recently, and I said that no matter what politicians in the West are saying, no matter how great this politician is, he should depend on the conditions that we create here now as people, as power, as the state. Because if in 2014, and this deep concern, if we as society didn't group and didn't repel these fascists, so this concern could lead to the situation that we here in Kiev, we are in prison, but all you who are here in Kiev, maybe you would sing the Soviet song about Soviet lands. So, and this depended on the position of the leaders of the Western countries, and today we should create proper conditions, and we should not connect these actions with some positions of some politicians in the West. This is important for those people who are there, who are fighting. So I'm trying to express my feelings here. So I read about these concerns. I did it in 2014, and the declarations were made, and they were not proper. And when I heard about the meetings, when I heard that my compatriots in each house, they speak about my fight, not my condition where I was. And I went through difficult things, and I communicated with my lawyers, and some of them were skeptical, but I said no. And now these guys, they also depend on us, on journalists, people, how we hold these meetings. We name them, not because we make symbols out of them. We want to focus the attention of people and the situations people are in, and this is important. And after this press conference, we should, independently of what Trump will say about political prisoners, we should demonstrate our position as a nation, as a state. And this will give us more. This will give more force to these people. They chose their way, no matter what someone say. So this person, he made demand and he went on hunger strike. And we should understand his decision. So we should speak about our support of his fight, and these people will decide for themselves what form of fight they're going to choose. I'm convinced that we will be able to create such conditions and complex, and I hope that they will be released. Maybe this is a rigid and cynical action of Putin. We should not think that he will be humane. We should not deceive ourselves about it. But we should create conditions when he will be forced to give these people back to us. And we can create such a situation because it depends on us. Now the floor is given to Maria Gurieva, Press Office, Amnesty International. Thank you. Really, consolidation of actions and bringing attention of the international community to what is going on in Crimea, about the cases of Emir-Usein Kuku and other cases. This is really important, and this is a key in order that in future we are able to return those people who were illegally convicted. And Amnesty International carry out actions. We gather signatures and letters. There was a marathon of letters, and we held with this action last year. We brought letters to Kuku and other political prisoners, and children wrote letters to his children, and they really liked this, his warm words from children who live far away, and this was a great support for the whole family. Now, one of the main of our concerns is that Emir-Usein refuses to take glucose, and maybe you had this news, and one of the reasons why is because they say that this would be the stop of hunger strike, but Alexei takes glucose, and this is still a hunger strike. This is a powerful declaration. That's why now we plan to write a letter to Emir-Usein Kuku, where we are going to state that this is not the stop of hunger strike, and we hope that other organizations will also join us, and we are ready to act in this direction more actively. And once we have notice from his lawyer and Mr. Kuku. Also, the development of the case. Maybe the lawyer will tell us more about it, but we should remember that some accusations that are used in the case, they were illegally gotten, so this is the weak point, and we should use it in order to provide change in this court hearing. So despite the process is illegal, because people are innocent, and in this framework of this process, there are many procedural violations, and we should pay more attention towards them. So this is the issue we should consolidate on, and we should speak about it, and we should shout about it. So we saw some developments on the international arena, and some departments of other countries declared about clear conditions that Emir-Usein Kuku and others should be released. And Great Britain made such declarations, and events in Russia, the final and the meeting of Putin and Trump, these are the events that are important now, and we should raise our attention, and violations in their own countries should be the matter for discussion for these people, and they should draw attention to what is going on in their countries. We do not have illusions about the decision of the President of Russia. We do not have illusions that he will just stop violations of human rights because this is a systemic problem in the Russian Federation. But our position as a society, our activity of the society, and we voice that we have many supporters, and we have opportunity to influence the situation and to create conditions when Russian Federation will be forced to release those illegally detained people and to stop prosecutions against people based on their views. Thank you, Maria. We won't be joined by Miriam and Sergey. That's why now we start a Q&A session. Please, questions from the media now. Mariana Bohan, 1+1, TSN News. I have a question to Akhtem. You said that people who ask to stop hunger strike, you say that they do not understand what is going on, but there are many people, Crimean people, they ask about this. Emir-Usein, I didn't say that this is wrong. People, we are normal people. What we think about his life and the lives of others. But so they declared the hunger strike. At the stage, they see this form of struggle. They are not in prison as people who are in the personal situation. They have societal load, this burden, and they have the opportunity to speak for a long time with them until I was released. And you know, they've said, if Akhtem and Gavaz are released, we got information about it. If you are released, this will be hope that we are not alone, that we're not, that they were not speaking about themselves personally, they were speaking about Crimean Tatars and Crimea in their difficult situation. And I was skeptical, and I said that this won't happen. And during that period, I believed that I was brought to prison through illegal process. I didn't believe that judges will be fair. So there were many deliberations like this, and I understood this. And we didn't share, we didn't divide our release. We didn't believe that this is the most important. We believe that we should support others. We shouldn't close our eyes on the fact that people die in the east, and the Western leaders do not pay proper attention to the situation, or the situation in Crimea. We understood that each day in Crimea there were searches and people die in their 40s and 50s. We heard about funerals because of strokes, because of heart attacks. And we understood that our fight is really closely connected with the whole situation. And about the stages, how to resolve the situation, the whole situation in Ukraine. So there should be a number of ultimatums. And the last one is the freeing of occupied territories. So we may see it as stages. So their fight is directly related to all of us, to everything that is ongoing in our country. So this was what I was saying then. So next question. How many people are detained in Crimea now in case of Hizb ut-Tahrir and other cases? Do you have figures? Thank you. I would like to say that it is difficult to say about the figures. Now, human rights defenders, they do not have a single opinion who should be considered as political prisoner in Crimea. There are several people, military men, former servicemen of Ukraine, who then came to the side of the occupants, and then they were condemned once again that they allegedly were spying, or there is such a prisoner in Crimea, Lemeshka. A year ago, he was detained and accused of subversive activities, and he wrote all declarations and he agreed on accusations, and there was a court hearing, and he also addressed all the TV channels, but the majority of organizations didn't put him on the list of political prisoners. Or there is Stepanchenko and Nazimov in Alushta, and they are not on the lists of most of the organizations, but many people were incarcerated because of political reasons. We do not assess whether these people are good or bad. We didn't assess their actions such as collaboration, but these were politically motivated cases, and our organization is speaking about 96 cases of politically motivated persecutions. There are people who are in prison and those who are in home arrest, and more than 60 people, 66 people who are in prison. That's why when we are speaking about 70 people, this is not the whole figure, because only in Crimea there is 66 people who are in prison, and if we include those who are in the territory of Russian Federation, so the figures are even bigger. I would like to comment, we do not know all the people from Crimea who are in prison, because there is a number of people who went missing or they were kidnapped forcefully. And we do not know whether they are still alive or whether they are in prison somewhere in the territory of Russian Federation or maybe in the prison of FSB. For a long time, FSB do not provide information about those people. For example, information about Mr. Klich. We didn't know for a year where he was, and only in 1 year he was found. And when we are speaking about an exact number of political prisoners, we do not know exact figures, and with our colleagues we are trying to clear up and understand the situation. We understand that there are three categories of people, three categories of lists we are working with. The most pressing It's about people who have some chronic diseases or they started hunger strikes. And by those lists, and we try to work more with these lists. There are different categories. There are people who are in prison, or people cannot leave Crimea. Nikolai Semena, people do not speak about him a lot, but he considers himself political prisoner and hostage because there was some article for extremism against him. He cannot travel for treatment or to visit his family, and they are in mainland Ukraine. I would like to add. So whether he is a political prisoner or not, I'm more categorical about it. Someone, for example, signed some papers and stated his position, but then he signed all the papers. So he said something bad about someone, but some people, they just refused to fight. When you sign these accusations against you, it is clearly stated that you were prepared by the state to do something, or like in my case, that we preliminary were prepared for some massive disturbances. And this is more about people and the state. But some people were not in prison, but they are still political prisoners, and I am convinced about it. For example, Mr. Svetlaev, he cannot go here. He was not incarcerated, but he was Ukrainian passport. He didn't get Russian passport. And he says that if he travels, he won't be able to return. But he stays there and he continues his civil activities, and so some people, another person signed all the papers and signed all the accusations and got 3 or 5 years, and some people, they just were freed, and they are even guarded. And here, we cannot include these people in this list. So there are no courts in Russia. Everywhere they just take decisions based on orders. But political prisoner is a clear position before your arrest, during your arrest, and when you are in prison. Because they say that there is Sentsov, and we may lose him, Kuku, Baluch, and others who are in prison, and there are other people who just betrayed everyone. And motivation in Russia is one. If they do not like you, if they do not like you, so you go to prison. I would like to speak about one person that is politically motivated. This case is politically motivated, but his lawyers, they take another form of defense, and we as society is limited. We are limited in his defense. So the role of lawyers is really important in cases. Tatiana Suli, RTR channel. Akhtem, the question to you. Last week, Ismail Ramazanov came out of prison. How do you assess this action? I do not. You should not provide assessment to this. There are some separate cases. They happen really rarely, and we shouldn't symbolize this. This is not when some people were sent to home arrest. This was symbolic. All Simferopol detention facility could not understand what is going on. And in this case, we do not know what will happen next. We may say that were some improvements, but on the background of the whole situation of repressions, this won't be logic. About Ramazanov's case, a month ago, his lawyer Alexei Ladin came and he said about this case in detail, and he said about this case and that prosecutors were not able to make this case clear. And this was an exemplary case concerning the documents, and sometimes people in the system who are working there, judges who take decisions, and if they see that there's nothing, they do not want to take such decisions. But the first case was not closed. His term is not extended. Thank God he is still at home, but there is no final decision, and we hope that this decision will be positive and he will be released. But I agree with Akhtem. It doesn't show systemic actions or some improvements or insinuations that this final the football championship and happened and he came to his parents. I would not connect these actions. The documents were not well prepared and this case is still ongoing. Mykola Antofichuk, Ukraine channel. Ukraine TV channel. Please tell us about health condition of your compatriot. What is your position? Would you try to convince him to take glucose? Could you specify this? And what about this? What about the lack of information about those people who came on hunger strike, went on hunger strike? So there are two forceful support forms of support of the organism. They are not productive, and I saw this because that happened to us, and the specialists will tell you about it. So you're not in sanatorium in order to have some. You are in terrible condition there, and this time-limited measures, they cannot give good results. So what was said here today, they continue their hunger strike despite interferences in the organism. Maybe this is even worse. About information support of those cases. It depends on you. We are trying day and night. Please invite us. We can provide proper information due to our compatriots, due to our friends, to other channels. We may provide update. That is really true. Up-to-date information can be provided to you. We do this not to just have some work done. Based on this, based on these processes, we are trying to bring information to each and every, because without emotional support of Ukraine, both state and the people, they won't be liberated if we don't provide support to them. About the health condition, Maria said already that Emir-Usein refused additional methods such as glucose. It happened because the doctor forced him to do this. Emir-Usein provided a letter last week to his lawyer. This letter was made public. First days of hunger strike, I lost about 1 kilo a day. Then this was 600 grams a day, and the doctors check my weight. The blood and the urine test are made, and he was transferred to regional hospital for prisoners, and there were some procedures, X-ray and blood test and other analysis, and the tests showed that he had problems with the heart and some other deterioration of health, and he had some heartache, and he was treated for his condition, and the doctor of the detention facility told him that if he makes all these actions, this would mean that he stops his hunger strike. And Maria said that this is not right, this is not correct. And he said that his analysis got worse, and his heartache increased, and his liver started to ache. So he was sent to the hospital from prison. And they started to think that some internal bodies moved that his organs, internal organs lowered because he lost his weight, his fat, and then he was brought back to hospital in some time, and his analysis improved dramatically, and the doctor said that everything is good about his heart, and he saw that doctors who examined him, that they were ordered to write these results, that this analysis, the doctors said that so the results of the tests, they were fabricated, and he saw that these results were not true, and his state of health condition deteriorated. He needs these injections of glucose, but the doctor says that if he does this, this will be the violation of his hunger strike. That's why it is important to bring the information to Emir-Usein and to so-called doctors, not only in the detention facility and in this interregional hospital for prisoners. We should say that we follow the situation, and Amnesty International should pay more attention to this, because they are just killing him there, because one doctor says that he needs treatment and the injection of glucose, and another doctor says other things. So they make pressure on Emir-Usein in detention facility, and they're trying to force him psychologically. He still is opposing them, and there are court hearings, and the lawyer have the opportunity to speak with him in Rostov, and today his wife also came to Rostov. Unfortunately, we were not able to connect with her today, and Oleg faces more difficult situation, and Natalia Kaplan, his lawyer, they support him, but we thank you for your support of Emir-Usein case, and we thank you for your support of other political prisoners, and we hope that due to the spread of information, due to solidarity with them, we will be able to help them. Thank you. So maybe some more questions. Okay. Please introduce yourself first. I would like to, Serikov Sergey. I am the participant of the Revolution of Dignity, and I addressed OSCE meeting about Sentsov and Ms. Gerashenko. This is the person who forced the people out of the House of Union. So I would like to show my certificates of the participant in order to prove my position. Tamila and Akhtem, remember 15th of March when Crimean Tatars went on strike on the road, and there was another action of Ukrainians, and the Ukrainian actions was held on the 16th. I do not know why. And Crimean Tatars who were there, they said why it happened so, why Crimean Tatars came to the sections, and the Ukrainians, they were trying to come to Simferopol, and I saw how Titushkas throw our guys from the train, and some of them just disappeared. So the question is, Sentsov, Kolchenko, Baluch, and Kuku, they went on hunger strike, and this is their personal fight, and we should support them. But there are other people. For example, Ivan Katkala, you remember this priest in Perevalne. We had connection with them due to him, and then he was forced out of there, and this man, he is really close to me, and he was welcomed by diaspora. I do not want to mention the names, but they refused to accept him, and in Cherkasy the situation was difficult, and I would like to address to Tamila, to CrimeaSOS, and also Akhtem, maybe remember me. During Kurultai in 2014 I was present, so we should raise the issue about the protection of other people. People know that we support them, but those who were forced out, they are just persecuted. Tkalo and Pavlo Dobryansky, they were forced to go from Kiev Patriarchy to other confession. Why? Why there is no support? Why there are prosecutions against me when I say that the chief of the staff who betrayed Crimea, that he should be prosecuted? About the March of 2014. March 2014. So maybe you do not remember everything about the situation officially or massively. Protests started on the 26th of February, and this is the start of opposition to occupation. And all those processes, they grew, and now they are in the different form. In that period, different civil society organizations came up with different initiatives, but all of them were directed to condemn military occupation of Crimea. These were tens of thousands of people. In some cases, there are 1,000 people, but some people, they were initiative, and we found them dead. They were killed in a brutal manner. So before asking such questions, you should first refresh your own memory. About Sentsov, as I've said earlier, some people, they just play for the benefit of FSB and Russian Federation. So we all had articles on extremism or terrorism that were used against us. About others, I've expressed my opinion. About others, any form of protest by a person, we support those protests and we join these protests. If someone is not so well known, we do not assess them as less active or something negative. Maybe Father Clement came and he participated during the events, and these persecutions started in Crimea against Ukrainian patriarchy, and during that period, the first period, we, the Muslims, we were considered differently. And Father Clement, he was severely persecuted, and he stayed there until the last moment. And he came to detention facilities in order to speak with the guys. Good afternoon, Damir Medadirov, Crimean human rights movement. I have a letter of Human Rights Office, and this is the answer to Miriam Kuku letter. Answering your letter about the release of your husband, who is in a Simferopol detention facility. Now there is no legal mechanism to transfer your husband from Crimea to mainland Ukraine. So the state the state has shown that it is unable to help our guys. And I have a question to Maria about the decision. This is the letter of 2017, and the letter to Akhtem about negotiations. Maybe there are some negotiations with Erdogan. So maybe they should use the same scheme to release other guys. Thank you for your question. So it is difficult to speak about legal mechanisms, and those who are in Russia, who are persecuted or who are in prison. This is the political issue, and we constantly remind about it, that this issue should be mentioned on international platform. This is a visible problem. People are known, their names are mentioned, and on any platforms they are mentioned. We constantly ask our representatives in UNO, UNESCO, and everywhere to speak about this. And we hope that at the level of political negotiations between diplomats and the heads of states, we hope that this decision will be resolved. And this happened in November last year, and this case is still ongoing. In order to provide this exchange, there should be clear final stage, and I do not see that someone will be exchanged, unfortunately, until the verdict is provided by Russian court or occupation court. I believe that maybe this answer is connected with this, and I agree with Maria. There's not a lot mechanisms like this, and Emir-Usein Kuku and other political prisoners, and Russia believe that they are the citizens of Russia, and Emir-Usein Kuku, in his declarations, he always says that he is Ukrainian citizen, and Kolchenko, they also said about this. But I believe that this can be only after the verdict is made, otherwise this won't be resolved. So there are several aspects that were forced on Russia through negotiation process. First, so until these people are, until the court make decisions, nothing can happen, but this is not true. So the case may be stopped. This is not a problem. The problem is in pressure. This pressure is not enough to release them in this way. I really believe that if the team of France won't go to the championship, and for example, the demand would be to release 5 people, that only in this case they may come. The result would be different, because non-participation of a team of France, team of Germany or Great Britain, this would nullify this championship. So the pressure was not enough. And other manipulations included by pardon. So I didn't write this. And in the code, it is said that I should ask for pardon, and then I should say that the decision of the court was right. And then maybe the Tsar will consider. I didn't write this. But the Tsar don't think about the code. And others wrote something, and I was exchanged. And I think that this concentration in that period of all the efforts, it allowed Erdogan to successfully carry out these negotiations. About current situation. Now the negotiations are ongoing. I know that the president starts his meeting with the fact that he is speaking about the necessity to release political prisoners. But the decision is not in Ukraine and not even in Russia. It is in the West. Do you understand this? Negotiations are ongoing, but we should actively, emotionally carry out this work. And the civil society organizations, they try to focus the attention of the public and the journalists, and then it should go through logic network. We should make our work more active. Some people say that people are tired of protest. This is not true. Thank you. Unfortunately, our time is up. So if you have questions, please put them off records. Thank you.